why we're thinking about this, and then we'll obviously have some opportunity for public comment.
For those of you that were here last Monday, or our last council meeting, I apologize. You're basically going to see the same presentation we put before council at that time, but it does have the core of information that council needs to be able to make a decision. So as soon as the computer brings it up, unplug it, Deborah.
Yep.
Hey, we got activity. And I don't know why it's not. There we go. My apologies, everyone. So, the current situation, the St. Mary's Tax Digest increased 5.18%. According to Georgia law, that a rollback millage rate be computed to offset any inflationary increases in the Tax Digest. The rollback rate for this year is computed at 5.205. The millage rate for this past year was 5.439%. This is what I don't know why it's not doing. For some reason, our computer and our screen are not syncing. I apologize. Deborah, I need to unplug.
Okay.
Still doing the same thing. Okay, the computer's not working. I apologize. Our overall digest for 2025 is $1,052,374,330, which is a 5.18% increase in total digest. So that is roughly 51,855 difference in the value of 1 mil. The mil is what is used to calculate what your property taxes are. Okay, so as I said, the current rate for 2024 was 5.439. The taxes that were levied were $5,723,864,000. The rollback rate going to that would be 5.205, and that would bring in $5,477,608, which is a 0.65% increase from the previous year, and that's basically staying right where we are. Okay. If we were to go to the rollback rate or go to keep it where we had it last year, which would be the 5.439, that would be an increase of 4.39%. And that would only bring in an additional $295,771. If you remember last year, we did the rollback rate, so that kept us down, and I wish you could see the graphics because it explains a lot better than I can verbally, and I apologize. What that would mean if we were to take the, if we were to keep the same millage that we currently have, that 5.439,
Just went from $1,590,000
and your house was not
$1,052,5%.
reassessed this past year,
Okay.
you would still pay the same thing, okay?
If we go to the rollback.
Some of the factors that we've seen over the last year that are playing into it, and staff has not made a recommendation, this was given to council, was we were impacted by the House Bill 581, which if you have homestead exemption with the county, you automatically got that. So we saw that exemption reducing our revenue stream by $18,823,174. Our change to our senior exemption, if you remember, we went through that process last year. That was a difference of $9,718,327. There was $123,000 of property tax adjustments, and we had in '24 there was $129,362 of unpaid taxes, which we're working on, and we will continue to work on over the next couple of years. So those are the things that really impacted the bottom line. We presented to council, and we asked for what their recommendation was. And so I apologize for the computer not working. I'll have that up and live at 6 o'clock guaranteed. Yeah, so.
All right, let me try to maybe expand a little bit or expound on some of the scenario where we are and why we think we're at least, I'm considering, holding this rate where it is from last year. As Mr. Horton said, due to House Bill 581, and quite frankly, to everyone listening out there, I was a little appalled to see that there's only around 1,900 plus homes that have the county homestead exemption and thereby have the 581 exemption, because there should be more. So if you're not taking advantage of that for your personal finances, you need to go to the county and apply for your homestead exemption to freeze your property tax rate from increasing. And that's on your primary property, but there should be more. But us, St. Mary's, the only city that passed that exemption, and that cost us somewhat in the revenue stream, because of that fixed rate. But what that does mean is for everyone who has that homestead exemption, by keeping the same millage rate, your taxes don't go up. Your taxes stay the same because they're based on the property value that your house was last year. Same millage rate as last year, same property value last year. So your taxes on your property value will be the same. I have some additional properties in my business. I would call it investment land, but the value seems to go down instead of up. But some of the property that we have, those taxes obviously would increase slightly if the value of that property had been reappraised or reassessed to a higher value. Then by not having the rollback rate that, on an individual basis, it maybe doesn't always work out as it does on the entire digest, but, but the big benefit is to have that personal exemption, the 581 exemption, to keep your property taxes where they are. But because of some of those factors that have limited that property stream, we're only talking about a difference in revenue of $282,000. And as Mr. Horton said, some of that is kind of being eaten up from our budget from unpaid taxes, taxes we expected to receive and have not received as yet. Staff continues to work on collecting those taxes. And then when people go and appeal their property values and those get changed and lowered from this digest, then that too affects the eventual income that the city takes in. And I believe, one of the things that the folks that elected me were hoping for, based on things I talked about during the election, were quality of life issues, and things, the way our town looks, the way the curbs look and the grass growing over the curbs, and getting a street sweeper to clean the streets and make it look more presentable. Some of the things that we're trying to do with recreation, taking over the maintenance and operations of our fields back from PSA and trying to make some investments in those areas. We'll hear some information Monday night about the tennis courts, hopefully. We've talked about things like pickleball courts, and as well as just improving the quality of play of the fields, the safety of the fields. Those kinds of things are going to take some investment from the city in order to do those kinds of things. But I believe those are the kinds of things that our citizens will see those improvements happening and can take pride in that. And for the small amount of money just to give us kind of that safety net, I think it's not a tremendous cost to us. The other thing we have some information about, is the kind of the status of our fund equity. We currently right now have in our general fund equity roughly around 6 months of operating expenses. So, if a hurricane was to come through here and severely damage, city operations and our ability to do things, and the city could continue to operate and pay its bills for around 6 months. The state recommends, just as a general rule, when you go to these trainings for newly elected officers and things like that, 2 to 3 months is considered good in most places. But the caveat, the warning that was given was, if you're in a coastal area, or if you're in an area that could potentially be impacted by, a hurricane or those kinds of catastrophic events, that maybe you're more comfortable having a little bit, more of a fund equity. And that's kind of been the stance of the city through the years. I'm trying real hard to balance that with our needs. I don't want to spin that down to a point where we don't feel like we have the good cushion that we need to have in case something goes, but I also want to make sure that we're putting our money to work for the benefit of the citizens. So with kind of all those things in mind, that's kind of where I stand on this. And if any other council members have anything they want to add, or if not, we'll kind of open it up to hear from y'all and see what y'all are thinking about what we're.
Mr. Mayor, if I can, I really wish slides was working so everybody could really see what I see up here. We were talking about if your assessed value changed, because there were homes in St. Mary's that their assessed values were changed. Just as an illustration, if you had a $300,000 home and your assessed value was increased by 10%, what that equates to at the end of the year is a $65.27 increase over a year. So that's keeping that same millage rate. Okay? Everybody kind of understand where I'm going with that? I'd really love to show you. But so even with the change of assessed value, you're only seeing a $65 increase in a year's time. And so I just wanted to make sure that point was out there, because I know that was folks trying to understand.
I do have a couple of comments, but I'd like to hold them until we hear from the people that are here.
Anyone else? All right, so we'll open up the microphone. If you have something you'd like to share with us, please come up, give us your name and your address. And
Jerry Brumbelow, 805 Riverview Drive West. I wasn't gonna say anything, but, and, you know, I understand where you guys are coming from, that's pretty good, but, the reasons that I won't oppose. The reason that I wouldn't oppose this, keeping the rollback rate where it is because you guys had the gumption to pass 581. So I appreciate that.
anyone else? Okay, seeing no movement, then Ms. King?
Yeah, I agree with much of what the mayor has said. One of the things that I wanted to bring out, is this working? Working? Okay. We budgeted tax revenues of $5,428,093, and I believe at the 5.2 rate, we would be collecting $5,477,000, which is a little more than what we budgeted for. And I calculated our uncollectible at approximately 1.2%, which would be $68,000. It's not a lot of money, and eventually we do collect most of that. And as the mayor pointed out, one of the things that I still want to look at is the fund equity balance, and whether or not we are utilizing that to the benefit of the citizens. There is a balance. There's a give and take on that, and, you know, between 3 months and 6 months is a fair amount of money. So I'm still looking at that, and I want to hear from everybody about what their thoughts are, but we're close, I think, to being able to reach a decision.
All right, anyone else?
You know, at this point, I think I'm going to hold off until we have our 5 or 6 o'clock meeting. You know, I think everybody here that showed up and was able to come at 10 o'clock today, but I think we'll have a few more citizens here at, 6 o'clock. So I'll withhold my comments until we have a little more feedback.
Same.
Okay. All right, with that, we'll end the meeting. Thank you.